What's up guys, today I'm going to be going over all the Make-A-Wish items and what their backstories are. But before we get into it, make sure to subscribe because 99% of people who watch my videos aren't subscribed. And with that being said, let's get into it. The first item I want to talk about is the Ultra Commando, which was made at the request of this user. He was diagnosed with cancer and his wish was to have his own personal Roblox hat, or at least it was until November 19th of 2018, where he requested for Roblox to make it a limited item just so he could trade it off for a Dominus just so we could trade it off for a Dominus Infernus. But anyways, he got his own custom hat, asked Roblox to make it a limited just so he could trade it off. I mean, pretty shitty if you ask me. It was a nice hat. I would have kept it, you know. It's really rare. I mean, he was the only person with the hat, so he made the price 999 billion or whatever, so it looked super valuable, and they just traded it off. I personally would have kept it, but let's get on to the next one. And the next one I want to talk about is the Azour Light Dominus, probably one of the ugliest ones ever. I mean, no hate to the kid, but if I didn't even know if I was going to make it to tomorrow, I'd at least want to have a good Roblox hat to wear. I mean, the colorway is great, the texture is great, I just don't understand why he would ask to have that ugly ass face on the Dominus. But let me chill out because after all, this hat was made for a dying kid. But anyways, this hat was made by the request of this user who was also diagnosed with cancer, but he luckily made it by. But unlike the other kid, this one wanted to, you know, keep it for himself. He didn't want to make it limited, which honestly, very luckily so, because this hat is so ugly. I don't even want this out there. You know, I just want this to only be in his inventory. But once again, let me stop shitting on dying kids. Well, they're not dying. Well, they lived. They're not dead. Okay, they're just Make-A-Wish kids. But let's just go ahead and go into the next item. And this next item is the Dominus Desperationist, is how I think you say it, I might be wrong. And this item was given to this user suffering from cystic fibrosis. I don't really know what that means or like what it does, but I'll just go ahead and throw the definition of it on screen. But this item was, you know, one of the better ones that a Make-A-Wish child, or I don't know how old he is, he might not be a child, just a Make-A-Wish person, you know, requested. You know, it looks really nice. I mean, if I was a Make-A-Wish kid, I might request something similar to this. And I think this person is still alive doing well. I really couldn't find any information on how they're doing as a person, but let's just hope they're doing okay. And there's really not much else to talk about with this item besides the description, which reads, "All death equals acts, not words," which I really have no idea what that means. I think it might be a quote from something because it's in quotation marks. So I looked it up and it basically just said we determine people on the acts they do in their life rather than the concepts they write, which I still don't really understand. But, you know, I think I do kind of get the, you know, feel for it. We determine people on what they do in their life rather than the concepts they... Okay, wait. I don't know what that means. I don't know what the concepts they write means, if I'm being completely honest. So let me just shut up and let's get on to the next item. And the next item I'm going to talk about is the Dominus Valk, which was made for this user. And this user was diagnosed with cancer, but he did luckily survive. Honestly, thank God this one survived because, I mean, pretty fucking fire hat. Honestly, this is fucking fire right here. I like this a lot. And, you know, I just love this hat, you know, black and orange colorway. It's Halloween themed. But this hat also is the first hat I've gone over so far to have effects and particles on it, which look pretty sick in game. And as you probably see by now, there's a pattern, you know. All of them are getting just reskins of some of the most expensive hats in the game. And I don't really blame them. You know, I'd probably do the same thing. So that's really going to wrap it up for the Dominus Valk. So let's go ahead and get on to the next item. And this next item I'm going to be talking about is the Sinister Valk. So this item was requested by this player. This hat is actually kind of different from the other ones because this one was rewarded to him for beating whatever disease he had. You know, the other ones, like as they were currently going through the disease, you know, they were praying that they'd make it. And they were getting the hat, you know, in the stages of the disease. But this one was actually rewarded to him for beating his disease. You know, very nice, you know, a very good deed by Roblox. But I'm pretty sure it was his wish. They just gave it to him like after. I don't really understand. But so, I mean, good thing he lived, I guess, or he wasn't going to get his fucking hat, which would have been disappointing. But, you know, this one actually was one of my favorites because this is a reskin of like such a LARPy item. But it's the Festive Valk, which would have been awarded to you. I think it was like an event a while ago. I don't really know what the event was. It was just an event, you know, an OG event back in the day. And this is a reskin of that. And honestly, a sick colorway. You know, a little green and black action, a little Overseer. You know, it really matches the Overseer set of items, which I like a lot. But unlike the last Valk, this one doesn't have any effects to it, which honestly kind of makes me wonder, is there a limit that they give you to where they just say no? You know, give me a Dominus Imperius, and they have to say no to that. You know, that's like becoming a millionaire. You know, you could USD sell that, which definitely would get you terminated. Do not do that. But, you know, he could trade it off. That would just be insane, you know, just giving an extra copy of a Dominus Imperius. But at the same time, you can't tell like a dying person or a dying kid, you know, no, you can't do that. Like, I really wonder if there is a limit, like before you make a wish, they're like, okay, you can't do this, you can't do that. Because low-key, dude, give me my fucking Dominus Imperius. I'm dying. Give me that shit, bro, you know? The only critique I really have with this hat is just it has no effects. You know, I know the Dominuses didn't really have any effects, but do you really expect a Dominus to have effects? I feel like that'd just be kind of weird. But for a Valk, you know, it gotta have some effects. You know, maybe like a green glow, green aura, some green, like, lighting particles to it. But overall, pretty solid hat. I like it a lot, so let's just go ahead and go on to the next one. And next we have the diamond hat, and this one was requested by this user. And holy shit, I owe an apology to the guy that requested the Azour Light Dominus, because what the fuck is this? You know, off rip, a million questions. Like, on why? You know, I was talking about how, you know, just the reskins of the expensive hats and the OG hats are repetitive, but God, this is just next level horrible. You know, it's kind of like going to a 5-star barber, one of the best barbers in the world, and then saying, you know, I want a buzz cut. You know, you could have done it at home. Anything's on the table, man. If fucking an actual Dominus, millions of Robux, anything, bro. But you ask for a fucking ugly ass blue fedora with antlers on it. But, you know, if you look at his avatar today, you know, the answer becomes quite apparent on why he's not wearing his own Make-A-Wish hat. You know, one of the only people in the world to ever get a Make-A-Wish hat custom to them, and he's not even wearing it. And I think it's for a pretty damn good reason. It does kind of make me wonder if he does regret, you know, making them make this custom hat for him. And, you know, maybe he doesn't even regret it at all. Maybe he loves the hat, he's just currently not rocking it, which this isn't the first player so far to not wear their own custom hat, which I honestly think is insane. I would definitely be wearing my Make-A-Wish hat if I had one. That's just it's such a trophy. It's such a thing to hold on to, and they don't really even wear it. I'm not saying that's ungrateful, you know. Maybe they're just tired of it. They probably got it a while back, and they've been wearing it this whole entire time. You know, it's time to change it up, but, you know, if he thinks it's fire, it's really all him, because he went through a crazy battle. He lived. You know, it's very, you know, exciting, very happy for him. But, you know, let's just get on to the next one. And the last Make-A-Wish hat I'll be going over in this video is the Dominus Frijudice. And you might be thinking, this is not a Make-A-Wish hat. You know, Roblox didn't make this hat for a person who was part of the Make-A-Wish program. And to that, I'd say you're correct. Roblox did not make this hat for a person who was part of the Make-A-Wish program. They didn't even make the hat in general. The person who made the hat was Sethy Cakes, and he was a part of the Make-A-Wish program, but his wish was a little bit different than everyone else's. His wish was to make his own Roblox hat, which ended up being one of the most memorable, legendary items in Roblox history. But as of today, Sethy Cakes is inactive on the Roblox platform, but he will always go down in history as the person who made the Dominus Frijudice. And that wraps it up for all of the Make-A-Wish hats in Roblox history. But that makes me curious, if you were a Make-A-Wish kid, well, let's hope that actually never happens. But if you were a Make-A-Wish kid and you could choose any hat that you could get or you could get made for you, what would it be? But anyways, I hope you enjoyed the video. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you later.